In our last two lessons, we have talked at great length about certain issues that India faced with in the wake of independence. Because there were a whole lot of problems pertaining to the political sphere as well as the economic sphere that India had to deal with and resolve immediately after attaining its independence in 1947. Now, one major issue that cropped up and that we will be discussing in this lesson was the formation of states. Now, when the Britishers were ruling the Indian subcontinent, they did not really take into account the culture, the languages that were spoken by the people. And so, they established their administrative units in their own ways. In our last lesson, we talked about how people living in several parts of the country had a problem with Hindi being declared as the national language of the country, because Hindi was not spoken by all the people uniformly throughout the country. At the same time, the country also did not want to have English as its national language simply because it was the language of the colonizers, the language of the oppressors. Now, India has been characterized by plurality and diversity in the truest sense of the terms since times immemorial. People of different religions and different linguistic communities stay here in this country. And so, when India attained its independence in 1947, people of all these different linguistic groups were wanting to have their own say. They were wanting to have their own states. And for this arose the issue pertaining to the formation of states. It is this discussion that we will be taking up in this lesson. So, we just mentioned that the Britishers had no regard for having linguistic homogeneity in the administrative units that they had set up. So, most of these administrative units that the Britishers had set up in the Indian subcontinent were quite arbitrary. In these various regions, people of different linguistic communities stayed together. And it was inevitable that more often than not, one linguistic community got precedence and authority over the other groups. This led to further disappointment as well as discontentment in the population. So, this is what was happening under the colonial rule, and so in its 1920 Nagpur session, the Indian National Congress now promised that after India achieved independence, there would be separate provinces based on linguistic groups. Now, this promise was made to ensure the unity of the linguistic groups, so that all these linguistic groups, so that all the speakers of different languages got acknowledgement and recognition in the country after independence. But the situation after independence wasn't as easy as it sounds, because the Congress as well as the constitution makers had to take care of a whole lot of conflicts that the country was enmeshed in. All these separate linguistic groups were wanting to have their own states. They were even wanting to have their own nations, so to speak. And so the Congress now walked back on its promise. The Congress opposed the demand for linguistic states in interest of national unity. So, in order to preserve national unity, in order to have all the masses together, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, as well as the Deputy Prime Minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, were of the opinion that India should not have separate states which were based on linguistic groups. But many linguistic groups were disappointed because of this. Because these linguistic groups were wanting to have their autonomous territorial units, so that the people speaking a particular language would be able to reside in that territory, in that region. But when the Congress broke its promise, these linguistic groups were filled with disappointment and dissatisfaction. The Kannada, Malayalam as well as Marathi speakers were actually looking forward to having their own states. So they thought that they would get their own states based on their linguistic identity after India attained its independence. But it was not to happen this way. And so they were now disappointed. They were also breaking out in rebellion in certain parts of the country. Now the strongest possible protests came from the Telugu speaking districts in the Madras Presidency. Now allow me to explain this to you so that this becomes clear, as in why were these Telugu speaking people protesting in the Madras Presidency. The Madras Presidency was directly under British rule when the colonizers were here in the subcontinent. And after India attained its independence, the Madras Presidency was initially left intact. This Madras Presidency was divided between two groups of people who spoke different languages. In the northern parts of the Madras Presidency, people spoke the Telugu language, and in the southern parts, people spoke the Tamil language. Now, in Madras Presidency, the Tamil speakers were more dominant and preeminent. They had more power and authority in the Madras Presidency, which is why the Telugu speakers were not really happy with being clubbed together in the same state with the Tamil speaking people. And so these Telugu speaking people were now wanting to break free from the Madras Presidency in order to have their own state so that it can be filled with people who spoke the Telugu language. To this end, these protests from the Telugu speaking people now became much more unified and coherent, and it took the shape of a formal revolt, so to speak. So, in 1952, when the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru went to this region for the campaign for general elections, he was met with black flags, and there were slogans that said, "We want Andhra." So the Telugu speaking people were wanting to have their own state that was called Andhra. Now confusions and turmoil kept on increasing in this region, and it was further given impetus by the death of Potti Sriramulu on 15th December 1952. Now Potti Sriramulu had gone on a hunger strike in demand for a separate state called Andhra, and after 58 days of hunger strike, Potti Sriramulu passed away. And after his death, now chaos and confusion engulfed this entire region. The government of India saw that it would no longer be able to not take into account the revolt and the protests that were happening there. So the government had to do something. It had to come up with a solution, and finally, on 19th December 1952, the government of India now declared the creation of the new state of Andhra. And Andhra was officially inaugurated on 1st October 1953. So here on this map you can see how Andhra was divided from Madras. So earlier on, this entire region was called the Madras Presidency, but now the Telugu speaking districts were divided from the Tamil speaking districts, giving rise to two new states, which were Madras and Andhra. Subsequently, in 1956, Hyderabad was also incorporated into Andhra, and this gave birth to the new state of Andhra Pradesh. So in 1956, Hyderabad and Andhra joined to give birth to Andhra Pradesh. But issues and tensions now surged even more when this Andhra Pradesh was formed by joining Hyderabad with Andhra. because here the Telugu speaking people in the Telangana region now found it very difficult to somehow assimilate into this region, because these people of the Telangana region who spoke the Telugu language lived very different lives from these people who lived on the coastal regions. And so there now came an issue of assimilation, which is why further tensions now arose in Andhra Pradesh. Now we learned how Andhra was formed for the Telugu speaking people, and when Andhra was formed in 1953, various other linguistic groups in different parts of the country wanted to have their own states. So all these linguistic communities were clamoring for having their independent states. And to this end, under popular pressure, the States Reorganization Commission was constituted in 1953. This commission submitted its report in 1956. Let us now learn about the report that was submitted by the States Reorganization Commission in 1956. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. In which year was the States Reorganization Commission constituted? Was it constituted in 1951, 1952, 1953 or in 1954? Well, the correct answer is 1953. It was in 1953, following the formation of the new state called Andhra, that this States Reorganization Commission was instituted. And this commission was supposed to take care of the demands of separate linguistic groups which were wanting to have their own independent states. So let us now look at the report that was submitted by the States Reorganization Commission in 1956. It posited that boundaries should be redrawn. Boundaries of various districts and provinces should be redrawn in order to make more clear and properly coherent territories. So, district and provincial boundaries were supposed to be drawn to form composite states. But eventually, this report gave in to the demand and the clamoring for linguistic states. So this report of 1956 stated that new linguistic states should be formed for the Assamese, the Bengalis, the Tamil, the Telugu, the Kannada as well as the Odiyas. So in this way, new linguistic states were supposed to be formed as per the report that was submitted by the States Reorganization Commission in 1956. Because there was no way out from this. All these linguistic groups were clamoring to have their own independent states. And so, linguistic states were now having to be formed. In 1960, Bombay was divided into two parts. Bombay was divided into Gujarat for the Gujaratis and Maharashtra for the Marathis. Likewise, in the year 1966, Punjab was also broken up into Punjab for the Punjabi speaking people, for those who were Sikhs, and Haryana for those people who mostly spoke Haryanvi or Hindi. So at this point of time, following the report that was submitted by the States Reorganization Committee, several states now came into being which were based on certain linguistic groups. So the states that were now coming into being at this point of time based on the linguistic identity of the people were Assam, Bengal, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana. So from this we can understand that Assam was formed for the Assamese speaking people. Bengal was formed for the Bengali speaking people. Orissa for the Oriya speaking people, Tamil Nadu for the Tamil speaking people, Karnataka for the Kannada speaking people. We have already learnt about the formation of Andhra Pradesh that happened by the joining of Andhra and Hyderabad. And Kerala was to be formed for the Malayalam speaking people. Bombay got broken up into Maharashtra and Gujarat. And Punjab got divided into Punjab and Haryana. So this is how the map of India seemed in the 1950s. But issues were never to end, because after the formation of states based on the linguistic identity of people, new kinds of issues came up that pertained to the ethnicity of people. Because people living in the northeastern parts of India have felt alienated and marginalized from a long time. And so, 1970s onwards, ethnic identity, administrative and financial viability came to be considered as the new criteria for state formation. When we talk about the formation of states based on ethnic identity, we need to take into account these states in the northeastern part of the country. The Nagas wanted to have their own state, and to this end Nagaland was formed in 1963, and this is Nagaland. Then in 1972, Meghalaya, Manipur and Tripura were accorded the status of new states. So in 1972, Meghalaya, Manipur and Tripura also came into being as independent states in the northeastern part of the country. In 1972, Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh were made union territories, but these became states later on. And then Jharkhand was made from Bihar in 2000. Bihar got broken up and Jharkhand now became a new state in 2000 from Bihar. Now this was done because of administrative reasons as well as financial viability. Likewise, in the same year, Madhya Pradesh also got broken up and Chhattisgarh emerged as a new state. So Chhattisgarh was formed in 2000. And then we finally have the new state Telangana that was formed in 2014. Now we learned that there were differences between the people living in the Telangana region and the people living in the coastal regions. And so the people living in the Telangana region wanted to break free from Andhra Pradesh. They did not want to live together with the people of the coastal regions who had very different ways of living and culture. And to this end, Telangana was formed an independent state in 2014. Here you can see Telangana, and this became the 29th state to be incorporated in India. This is how India looks today with its 28 states and 8 union territories. In this lesson, we have talked at great length on the formation of states that was happening in post-independence India. We learnt how this entire country went through a series of territorial configurations and reconfigurations. And this is a continuous process because many such changes still continue to take place with regard to the territories of separate states and union territories in the country. In the beginning, we learnt about how linguistic identity played a crucial role behind the formation of states. Subsequently, we also learnt about how different regions were wanting to have their own states based on their ethnic identity. At the same time, administrative reasons and financial viability were also taken into account for the formation of new states. So having learnt about this and seen this present map of India, let us now conclude this discussion on the formation of states that happened in post-independence India. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.